You're listening to the SKYLIT Books podcast. We're an independent, general interest bookstore putting great reads in the hands of people in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles. Hosted by resident Skylighters, we're here to bring you new and exciting author conversations, group reads, and bookseller chats. Happy listening.
Hello, my beautiful listeners, and welcome to SKYLIT. This is the SKYLIT Books podcast, and I'm your host, Lance Morgan. Today, I'm so excited to have Sequoia Maner on to talk about her new book, 33 1/3 Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly. Sequoia Maner is an assistant professor of English at Spelman College, where she teaches classes about 20 to 21st century African American literature and culture. She's the author of the prize-winning poetry chapbook, Little Girl Blue, and co-editor of the book, Revisiting the Elegy in the Black Lives Matter Era. Her poem, Upon Reading the Autopsy of Sandra Bland, was a finalist for the 2017 Gwendolyn Brooks Poetry Prize, and her essays, poems, and reviews can be found in venues such as Meridian's, Obsidian, the Langston Hughes Review, the Feminist Wire, Auburn Avenue, and elsewhere. She is at work on a poetic memoir about the foster care system in Los Angeles. Sequoia, so happy to have you on. I'm so excited. This is going to be so good.
Thank you so much for having me, Lance.
No, it's a pleasure.
Before we get in, can I just say that it's an honor. SKYLIT Books, central LA fixture. This is my first promo for the 33 1/3 book. This is the first time that I'm talking about it in public, so it feels very fitting to do it on this podcast. So thank you so much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. I mean, thank you for coming on. This is going to be so much fun as we've had to listeners like on our before we came on, we had to be like, no, we have to stop talking about this and save some of the stuff for the listeners so they can hear us. Just all the fun stuff that we were talking about. We've already talked about LA and the
conversation has been good and it's gonna be good.
It's gonna be good. I'm so excited. But Sequoia, you have a reading for us?
I sure do. I'm gonna read from the beginning of the book. I'm gonna take little chunks from the preface and from the first chapter. And I won't really indicate where those breaks are. I'll just read continuously.
Perfect. All right. I'll let you take it away.
This project springs from a personal place, and I've been writing toward this book for many years. Kendrick and I are the same age, and we grew up a few miles from each other, separated by the blocks that divide Compton and Long Beach, North Side. We survived Black adolescence in Los Angeles at a time when the state and its agents were determined to instill law and order and consolidate methods of punishment at the cost of many lives. We share the memories of Latasha Harlins, Rodney King, and too many others whose lives were foreshortened by debilitating poverty, brutalizing police forces, and unjust laws. We also share the embodied knowledge that music is capable of soothing a city burned barren by uprising. From what I know, Kendrick and I had vastly different upbringings. His gang-affiliated and dangerous, mine upwardly mobile and shielded. Yet we are both shaped by the dramatic climate of Black LA in the age of mass incarceration. We grew into poets who, in our own ways, are both invested in literacy and uplift for Black communities. Kendrick Lamar offers listeners a personal narrative that examines what it means to stay healthy and whole in a system of racial capitalism that negates self-determination and cuts short promising lives. In the popular sphere, Kendrick's music echoes bright against a redundant background of rap cliches by celebrating aliveness and liberating love. The act of introspection and rigorous love are socially and politically transformative, especially for those who have been cast as incapable of reason and as unworthy of receiving care and compassion. I recognize Kendrick as an organic intellectual who is an unparalleled writer and thoughtful performer who crafts philosophical albums with staying power, albums that invite replay and re-listening. As Kendrick says, quote, I want you to live with it. grow with it. At the end of the day, I make albums that have that kind of longevity. Kendrick Lamar's ascent in popular culture has been swift and high-pitched. Having gained national buzz with his 2012 sophomore project, Good Kid, Mad City, the rapper became a household name and decorated artist with his third album, To Pimp a Butterfly, in 2015. And with his fourth release in 2017, Damn, he garnered the Pulitzer Prize. Widely regarded to be his magnum opus, To Pimp a Butterfly is the album that launched Kendrick into another stratosphere, ranking #1 on lists by nearly every major music outlet, including Pitchfork, Rolling Stone, Complex, and Spin. Quote, to receive 11 Grammy nominations and be nominated for Album of the Year, now it feels like the world is listening to us, the rapper excitedly marveled. Note Kendrick's use of the communal us, something I'll return to throughout this book. For a bona fide rap star, Kendrick navigates celebrity in untraditional ways, primarily through acts of refusal. He keeps no social media accounts and stays out of the gossip circuits. He gives few interviews and keeps a low profile. His infrequent broadcast performances are special viewing events, as are his tours. Kendrick remains an elusive artist who lets the music speak for itself. So, when he became a household name, increased visibility and new demands vexed the artist. The rapper channeled his frustration into song. To Pimp a Butterfly is the autobiographical portrait of pivotal life experiences, where Kendrick is the protagonist of a story about negotiating two disparate spheres, the Compton home space that reared him and the music industry through which he has elevated. He testifies to the growing pains of a blossoming artist, and listeners gain insight into sources of stress in his life as he strives for balance between familial obligation and mainstream achievement. And I'll close out with this last little passage. The album feels like a stream of consciousness that has been sifted through, reckoned with, and patterned into art, cerebral and theatrical, confessional and aspirational, analog and orchestral. To Pimp a Butterfly strives for equilibrium in all regards, balanced against the deep sense of grief spurred by loss is redemptive faith. Like the poem that slowly builds over the course of the record, a narrative about awakening, about exploring one's interior and coming to consciousness of one's uniquely divine purpose, this comes to light. Dense, spiraling, and even strange, To Pimp a Butterfly is difficult in form. Performance poetry, G-funk, hard bop, conjuration. The album blends Black sound and experimental style for a revelatory listening experience, a unique offering of intellectual and spiritual labor.
What? I mean, hearing you talk about it, I'm just like, wow, there's a poeticness in like your appreciation of that album for sure. Just hearing you talk about it in that way, I was just like, oh my God. Maybe I'm seeing it in a new way already myself. Which I'm excited by. So how are you today?
I'm doing well, Lance.
That's good.
It is the end of a semester.
Woo!
I'm exhausted from another year of teaching during COVID.
Shout out to your students.
Shout out to my students, Spellman all day.
All day.
But also, Kendrick is dropping a new album in 2 days.
I was actually...
The anticipation.
Isn't it tomorrow?
Is it tomorrow? What day is today? It's within the next 48 hours. I'm excited.
Yeah. Isn't it? I was like, because I was talking about our recording at work yesterday, and one of my coworkers was like, wait, isn't he coming out with a new album on Friday? And I was just like, what? And we planned this
So long
we
ago.
had this, we played this so long ago. So what a like just weird cosmic coincidence or whatever, a spiritual coincidence that like we're recording this on the eve of a Kendrick drop after what, 5 years?
After 5 years,
5 years.
after the Pulitzer,
Yeah.
and what's amazing, this is my first promotion for
Mm-hmm.
the book. The book will be released at the beginning of June.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been writing towards this project for so many years. Maybe we'll talk about it. It's part of my dissertation, right?
Yes.
I've presented at many conferences, taught it in the
Mm-hmm.
classroom. And then it came into this form with 33 and a third. And it just feels so synchronous, so aligned that it would be dropping as Kendrick is dropping, right?
Right. Yeah. Isn't it crazy? Like the way things happen sometimes. It's like, ooh, what a like. Let's bring Kendrick on. Let's get him. Where is he? Let's send the Zoom link. We'll have him on the recording to talk about it too. But he was like, what if he's just like, yeah, I knew this was happening. We said at the same time.
Neither of us would be surprised, right?
Neither of us would be surprised. I would be like so happy. Wouldn't be surprised. I'd be like crying out of happiness, but I'd be like, yeah, this is meant to happen. Well, Sequoia, I want to start talking, and we were you shut me down when I tried to talk about this before, but now we're here and I want to talk about it. The way this album was so important to me in 2015, 2016, when I was graduating. I was graduating from undergrad, and I was like, I was in a space where everyone was like, together. We were like we were like, one of the things about college is like you experience everything together with the people around you, because like you're all forced to be together in that way. But like when something happens like that, everyone's experiencing that. And so I remember like this album coming out, and we were just so, it was electric. You could feel in the air, like All Right was playing everywhere.
Yes, everywhere.
And I remember that being like hyped for it, being like, just like you hear Kendrick in the halls and you're like, oh my God, yes. But like, I haven't listened to it in such a long time since, because, Reputation came out like 2000, or not Reputation, sorry, Damn. Damn came out right after in 2017.
Well, and if you really think about it, he was releasing, right? So right after To Pimp a Butterfly, he had that untitled, unmastered album, which was like a B-side. It was like all the tracks that didn't make it on To Pimp a Butterfly. So we were rocking that for a while. And then we went into Damn just 2 years later, which felt very short. So we had those releases back to back to back. And the way that you talk about this album is the way that I experienced Kanye's West, the College Dropout, while in college, right? Like that album was circulating in a very similar way.
Oh my God, I remember I was in
don't make me feel old on here.
I won't say it. I said nothing. I said no one heard anything. No, College Reputation. That was actually very important to me too in a lot of ways. But no, yeah, I mean, but it was so funny because Damn won the Pulitzer and I was working at another bookstore at the time. And I remember when Damn won the Pulitzer, everyone was like, what is, like, academics? And when I say in academics in white spaces, because black spaces, we were like, oh yeah, Kendrick. But like academics in white spaces started to be like, oh, who is this?
Yes.
Who is winning? Who is this person who won a Pulitzer for a rap album? And like, he's not the first, or he's not the, was he the first?
He was the first.
He was the first, yeah. Well, he was the first Black, was he the first? No, he wasn't the first Black, like I would say poet, right? He was?
Oh, well, so Kendrick is the first, now you're confusing me. Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Lance, don't confuse me, because I know that Bob Dylan, right, was also won something, but I think, I don't want to get this wrong. Oh my gosh.
Here, yes. I'm going to double check myself, just to make sure I'm not like dragging us down at all. I don't want to do that. he was he the first? We're gonna say he was. We're just gonna. The first non-jazz or classical work to win a Pulitzer for music.
Okay,
that's it.
Beautiful.
Perfect. We got it. If anyone asks, we knew it from the beginning. They don't need to know. But no, he was the first. I mean, first in that regard, and just like people were freaking out. People were like, this man won the Pulitzer in a way that no one expected. Yeah.
Well, okay, so it's so interesting. Like as you're talking, I'm having all of the thoughts, right? Because I'm thinking about how To Pimp a Butterfly circulated in a way that was really interesting for me. As you said, like All Right was everywhere. It was the anthem of Black Lives Matter protest. I remember the first night the album had just dropped, and I went to the club the next night. And when I first heard that, dun, 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 and then that beat drops. Oh my gosh, the club was just electric, and like we were all in that together, and it was a communal experience, and it was just transcendent and amazing and gorgeous. And the way that that album just kind of kept steady rising in popular culture was a thing to see. So for me, To Pimp a Butterfly was really the album that first crossed Kendrick over into this so that made him kind of legible to white audiences where he wasn't before. Now, I talk in the book, I'm not going to get into much of it here, but, you know, Kendrick was, with To Pimp a Butterfly, for me, Kendrick is accepted into the white establishment in ways that he hadn't been before. So for instance, he was dissed at the Grammys with Good Kid, Mad City. Anyone who listened to hip hop knew Good Kid, Mad City inside and out, and it should have won all of the awards. But who won? Macklemore, right? And the whole debacle. Well, when we get to the Grammys some years later for To Pimp a Butterfly, to me, I almost feel the industry trying to make amends, right, for that you know, traumatic that episode, right? That was so inherently racist and wrong, just wrong. Now it's interesting that like at the Grammys, that big award, album of the year, he loses yet again. To Pimp a Butterfly loses to Taylor Swift, right? So, right? So by the time he gets the Pulitzer, for me, I'm like, one, so deserved, right? The lyricism alone, the composition of the albums, the storytelling, the virtuosity, the mastery, the sonic mastery, so deserved, right? But also, in my opinion, belated. It also felt like a kind of amends for the ways that he had been, I don't know, not kind of justly awarded in the ways that he should have been by a white establishment previously.
I mean, I think disrespected is the word I would have used in a lot of ways. And I mean, like, how many... And
also like, tokenized. Like, this is what this album is all about, right? Like, To Pimp a Butterfly. He is thinking about what it means to be a Black artist within a music industry that expects certain performances of by Black men, that expects certain kind of tropes, certain kind of recognizable, sounds, and it's an industry that tokenizes, that exploits, right? At every level, and he's thinking about, okay, if I step into this role as a leader within the industry, within my field, within the genre, how do I also balance these demands? How do I not sacrifice my integrity as a Black man and a Black artist, right? So it's all about pimping and
and we'll go into the meaning of it soon, but I want to talk about, like, you know, for me, the journey to come back here, hear the sounds of LA in the background. For me to come back to this album, I mean, like, even between Damn and now, there was the Black Panther album that he came out with, which was huge. There was, him on Lemonade doing Freedom, which I feel like you think of it as, I feel like, because it comes back. Freedom keeps coming back, where I feel like even like sports commercials, I was hearing Freedom, and it wasn't the Beyonce part of it. It was the Kendrick part of it that I was hearing, where I feel like people heard the Kendrick part of it and they were like, what? They were like, to take the steam from Beyonce in that way, like that's not easy to do, but he kind of, you think of Freedom, you think of Kendrick's verse in it as much as you think of like Beyonce's part in it too. So I mean, a lot's happened since To Pimp a Butterfly till now. So going back and listening to it, I feel like at 7 years later? God, 7 years later, I feel like I learned so much more about myself and where I was then and how I've like kind of grown from that. We're now listening to it and I feel different. I'm angrier. I am sadder at a lot of parts. I am also like, there are parts where I feel like I needed to re-listen to it. So thank you for like getting me back to it. Where like even at the store we put it on and I think everyone at the store was like, yes, wow. They're like, it needs to be heard right now. We were like, I was putting on King Kunta and I saw people like come in the store and just immediately like they were like, okay, let's do this. So like, do you think this is an album right now that's worth revisiting?
Oh, yes. I love.
What a
yes.
question for me to ask.
I mean, as you're talking about revisiting the album, the process of writing this book over several years, revising it, returning to the album, listening chronologically out of order, there is so much depth and nuance and stacking of meaning and double and triple entendres. The album is surprising still, right? Even if I listened to it a gazillion times, and it is still surprising sonically, lyrically, the kind of images that are conjured, the kind of metaphors. It is so rich, but I'm just going to talk a little bit and hopefully I make my way around to the point, just because listening to you talk is evoking so much in me. So I'm remembering where I was in 2015, so this album drops at a very pivotal time in the United States. It drops on the crux in between the change of guard from the Obama administration, his 8-year term, to the Trump administration. Yeah. And there was a kind of foreboding in the country. I remember, teaching my students, and early in the semester, they started laughing like, oh, Trump, he's a dope, he's a fool. There's no way he could ever win. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, no, history tells us that he very well could, and will win. And I'll give you these reasons, X, Y, and Z, and we need to take that seriously, right?
Right.
You were talking about being in college and the kind of community that is formed and, how that album facilitated that community. I was in graduate school. Now, during graduate school, I was also, along with teaching classes, professionalizing to be a professor, writing, I was also in those streets protesting in Austin, Texas, in this neoliberal city. They like to call themselves a little blue bubble in a red state, but let me tell you, baby, that bubble is not blue, it is purplish, right? And Austin, so neoliberal, but the years that I was living there, for the 10 years I was living there, I saw the swiftest and most efficient gentrification. Quite literally, Lance, there were homes, former homes, still the edifice of the home, the structure. You could tell that this was someone's home converted into bars that people were partying in, right? That was the effect. That was what the gentrification was looking like in that city. So this exodus of Black people from the city, this ramping up of, militarization by Austin PD. There were several incidents, right? We were protesting against Sandra Bland. There was a lot going on. And all of that was informing my mental. And then Kendrick drops this album, and it's attesting to all of those things. It's validating the anger that folks are feeling, right?
Yes.
It's saying that you can endure, that you can survive this, that you can overcome the darkest things in your life, that you will be all right, that there will be a future for us and we can carve it together, right? It's a philosophical album. And you know, the reason why I think it touches us so, like, across demographics, across race and geography, right? Like, this is a global album. People love this album, right? Like, I was talking to a cat in South Africa the other day who's like, I can't wait for your book, right? I was talking to someone else who's in Israel, and I'm like, oh my God, right?
Yeah.
And it's not because of like the strength of my writing, it's the strength of Kendrick's pen, right? Kendrick's pen.
Yes.
And it's a deeply philosophical album that speaks to the most human parts of us. It's an album that thinks about grief, about loss, about deep sadness, about depression, about survivor's guilt, right?
Yes.
About managing expectations, about stepping into one's power and the kind of anxieties that are stimulated by that. But it's an album that also gives us what Kendrick also gives him and why we love him and need him, right? Yeah. It's an album of hope. It's an album of inspiration.
Yes.
It's an album that says you are valuable and worthy, like, no matter what you've been through, right? Like, I love that Kendrick is talking to prisoners, and he's also talking to college kids on the same album, on the same tracks, in the same lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, there's just so much there. It's so rich.
So, and I mean, even you saying that, I'm just like, not that specific time, but a little bit afterwards, right in between To Pimp Butterfly and Damn, I was living in Denver, and another state that purple, and the gentrification was so like immediate like that, like there was a school, an old school that got turned into a bar because or bar restaurant because the same thing. And you saw like literally they're part of the whole design was that like you're in the gym, isn't this so cool, like you're in an old school gym right now. I'm like, no, this is kind of weird. And like being like a lot of spaces where I'd be like, oh, I'm the only Black person in a very white space. And I would just be like, oh, I would like say that to friends and they'd be like immediately uncomfortable. I'm like, oh, I'm glad that you realized this just now, where I walked in and realized this. But like, I think that Kendrick was important to me at that time because like, he was going through a metamorphosis of his Blackness and his power in that, as I was like going through a metamorphosis of like my own Blackness, having like in a specifically white space, and while I'm like changing my life at that point. So like, I mean, it was so important. And
that's why I love a song like The Blacker the Berry, right?
Yes.
Which is so rageful, which has no filter, which is telling it like it is, which is raging against, the centrality of white supremacy, which refuses to die, right? Which just refuses to die, which just kind of, molds into new shapes and manifestations, and the kind of, the deep-seated rage that is in Junior. And he validates that, right? There's a space for that. And that anger, that rage can be catalyzing, can move you towards transformation. Okay, I just have to say, not to get too like academic, but while she's not in the book, the queen, poet, warrior, mother, goddess, Audre Lorde is always in the forefront of my mind. And I think of her track, The Uses of Anger, right? Or not her track, but it could be a track. It could be a track, right? Like a battle rap. Yeah. But her essay, The Uses of Anger, where she talks about the transformational possibility of anger. She says within anger, there's information and energy, right? And for me, that is what Kendrick taps into, right? To not be consumed and to go up in flames because of the anger, but the possibility of transforming into something new and powerful.
Right. And I mean, it's so unfair, but also like realistic that Black people have to go through that transformation so many times in our lives. We have to go through almost every time we move to a new space, almost every time like something happens in pop culture and news and media in the world, we have to like sit down and be like, all right, well, how does this like, how is this something that's like going back to our past, our history, our future, our generations, our generational trauma, our ancestry, what is going to happen to our descendants? We have to go through this every time. And I mean, with To Pimp a Butterfly, I think a lot of people in my generation, our generation, saw a lot of white people, I'll say actually, a lot of white people and a lot of non-Black people were like, oh, wait, this is something Black people have to like, this is a big moment for us to see what Black culture looks like in the essence of transformation and evolution, and like how they like lost something in they just keep trying to find it through meaning, through traveling, through exploration of who I am and who I will be and where I came from. And I mean, To Pimp a Butterfly, I think, is a perfect like
artifact
masterpiece
of that,
to that.
right?
Yeah,
of the Black condition. Right?
Yes.
And I love the way that you're talking about, like, every time something pops off in popular culture, we got to think about that. And like Kendrick is so special, one, because he's able to engage, right? If I'm thinking along this like Black-white dynamic that the music industry in this country just loves to reify, right? But he can engage both sides of the audience, be saying something and have messages resonate differently that are both true and exist at the same time, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's great that white people love this album and listen to it and bought it and, you know, like catapulted him to stardom. That's great. But like what it's doing for Black people, this is healing work. This is transformational work. Yeah. And that's what I'm invested in, right?
Right. It's also us like them seeing, oh wait, Black people love themselves too. Like they go through all of this and they still
I love myself.
Oh, you know what? We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. There are songs that I'm just like, there are songs I want to talk about for sure, and specific songs that we're going to talk about. But I want to know, because something with all the 33 and a third books that the one question I always want to ask people is, why this album? Because you have so many choices, right? You have so many choices. And I see an album collection behind you. I know. So, and I mean, I'm not even going to assume. I know. I mean, we're soul siblings. We said this. I know that you're you just like are a collector of just good music, good albums. And like there are so many good albums.
Okay, so let me tell you. Okay, so I'm sorry if this answer is a little bit long and rambling, but I promise you that I will
do not apologize. Do not apologize, please.
I'm glad that you recognize that. So I am a lover of music. One of the reasons why I love Kendrick so much is that he's also a lover of music. I remember there's a scholar, her name's Nicole Hodges Pursley. She teaches at the University of Kansas. I was giving a keynote there on Kendrick Lamar years and years and years ago. And she said, oh, the way that you talk about Kendrick, I think that he's a sonic archivist. And I was like, what? Sonic archivist. That is the term, right? Like a crate digger, someone who will go here and there, who's not afraid of exploring. And that is me 100. So I grew up in Los Angeles in this very beautiful time, right? Like if we think of the 90s, the kind of genre collapse, the collaboration that was happening. So my mom, you know, she was listening to gospel and soul. All my cousins, I was the baby of all the cousins too, right? So, and my foster sister, she was 10 years older than me. So whatever she was rocking, I was rocking, right? So that was all the hip hop, all the R&B. They used to take me to Summer Jam back in the day in the park in the summers, right? Yes. But then my little nerd self, always been very highly sensitive to sound and always a lover of music. I grew up playing the classical guitar, the piano, and I listened to heavy metal. Lance, my first concert was Slayer and Pantera at the age of 12 at the Long Beach Auditorium. Like I was that little Black girl, right? In her combat boots. I love folk music. I started listening to, classic rock and reggae and all of the things, just taking in everything that I could. So you're right. Sound hits me in a particular way. And I just love music. If it has soul in it, that's what I love. Right. And you see, when you read this book, for the listeners, you'll see that I kind of struggled. Right. So the whole second chapter of this book is about Tupac.
Yeah.
And it was important for me to have that chapter because Kendrick frames Tupac as a spiritual figure, a kind of guide for him. He's part of his origin story. He's a figure who he's always performing and thinking through his like ideology.
Yeah.
But I also have, notes in here. I went back to Parliament Funkadelic, one of their really early albums, America Eats Its Young, and thought about that as a prototype for To Pimp a Butterfly. All of that to say that as I was writing, the music itself is so citationally rich that I found myself really struggling not to write whole other album reviews or whole other 33 1/3 books. Yes. Now, get this. My dissertation, it was titled Liberation Aesthetics in the Black Lives Matter Era, Poetry, Protest, and Social Justice. So I was writing about poets and musicians who were reviving certain protest strategies in our age, for our age, right, of policing and mass incarceration and abolitionist politics. And for me, I wanted to write. So the dissertation, it kind of looks like Kendrick's work up until that point as a whole, right? It thinks of Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly as connected together and expanding themes over time. Right. And I really wanted to write The Good Kid, Mad City, 33 1/3. Yes. That's my album. I ride and die for that album. I love that album through and through. I have a whole book's worth, right? So 33 1/3, if you hear this, if you want another book from me, the book is ready, right? The book is ready. Just send me the contract. And like listeners, if you like the To Pimp a Butterfly book and you want the Good Kid, Mad City book, let the publisher know, right? Let the publisher know because I have it ready to go. So I initially wanted to write because, for me in that book, I talk about the formation of Black Los Angeles, the consolidation of police power, what it means to be a good kid in a mad city. I talk about the histories of Compton and Long Beach and these spaces that I grew up with, right? I think about my own upbringing in the foster care system, eventually being adopted out. Like I know that side of LA so thoroughly, and also like the sounds, G-Funk. I talk about all that history in Good Kid, Mad City. But upon submitting the proposal to 33 1/3, I was strategic. I said, To Pimp a Butterfly, that's the award-winning album. That's the crossover album. That's the jazz critics album, right? Yes. That's the album that, to be quite frankly, a white establishment loves, right? And has accepted. So I wrote the To Pimp a Butterfly 33 1/3 book, and I love it. I think it's beautiful. But that first story, the story of how a genius cultivates a practice that might secure him freedom, that might, grant him the wings to escape from a toxic environment. That story is so important to me. And that's a story that's told on Good Kid, Mad City.
And 33 1/3, you heard this. You heard it here. Get that book. Or honestly, any publisher you want to I feel like you have a Kendrick Lamar book ready to go. His people are going to come to you and be like, they're going to be like, we have an idea for you writing this book, and you're just going to hand them a manuscript. You're like, it's done. Like, what else you need? What else you need? Like, I got it. No, this is, to have such an understanding of an artist like Kendrick. Wow. Like that. And in ways, do you think that this book does, celebrate Good Pimp Man? I think it does. Good Kid, Mad City doesn't celebrate it. Yeah, because I kind of see those two albums as like two sides of the same
coin or two parts of the same story. They're both coming of age stories, right? And the first one is really thinking about how does one move from adolescence to manhood in a city that is dotted with landmines, that is so dangerous. How do I navigate and find my way, right? How do I hold on to my moral and ethical center? And To Pimp a Butterfly, the part 2 of the story is like, okay, I made it. I made it. I'm doing well. I'm successful. And yet I am running into these obstacles that I never thought that I could encounter, obstacles within the music industry. You know, while I'm out here celebrating, I'm touring Africa, people are dying back home. So what does it mean for me to have all this power and to not be able to help my people? How do I deal with the survivor's guilt? How do I truly be a leader within a music industry that doesn't want me to do that? How do I truly be a leader? How do I step into that power when we see the history of Black leaders before me? All of those who have been made martyrs, who have been killed. That's not my destiny. So Kendrick is asking all of these questions. It's a 2-part story. So I do often kind of go back to the initial story to talk about the character development, right? That he's giving us.
I mean, that's for artists, that's one of my favorite things to see in music. Like, I feel I had a conversation with someone recently. We were talking about like albums we like, and was it a date? I think it was a date, actually. If you hear that, I do go on dates, and that's on official record. Hit me up on the apps. I'm joking. Don't do that. Don't talk to me.
But seriously, hit him up.
Seriously, if you want. No, I was talking about like albums. We were talking about albums we liked, and I was like, yeah, there's a lot of albums where I feel like a lot of artists, especially when they make it, they lose the sight of like they forget what their whole thing was, that they were searching for something, and then now they're like, ooh, I made it. I'm celebrating. I there's nothing else I have to do. You just want to hear how happy I am. I'm like, yeah, but what are you still searching for? Like, you have to, like, what is the search? And like, To Pimp a Butterfly is a perfect example of like, you can make it and still have things to search for, still have meaning to like, what is next for me? There's always something that I'm looking for, no matter where I am in my life. No, Kendrick is a model of that, a model of like what that looks like. And I mean, just what an album to do that, and what an album to choose for that too. I mean, I think I asked, but like, I feel like I also didn't need an answer in a way, because I just, what better answer than like, why not Kendrick? Why not this album in his career? But like, no, I mean, your answer was also really great. So,
it's a timely album. It's a timeless album.
Yes.
It's an album that marks a moment. We're all going to remember where we were at this time. It's an album that moved culture. It's an album that became a soundtrack literally to a movement, right? But like what you're talking about, this continual search for meaning and the persistent practice of coming to consciousness, new planes of consciousness, is so vital to us as listeners, to pop culture, to this corrupt music industry. All of that is such a kind of opposing force that is rare. You know, Kendrick is rare, and I want to celebrate that. He's a genius, and I want to celebrate that, you know?
A genius. He's unapologetically Black and spiritual and
and you know, the other reason why I love him is because in this, let me not go too deep, but I'm like, in this day and age when people can't even read no more, people don't want to read books no more. He is a writer. He is a writer's writer. He is using language to lock into power. He is showing the power of literacy, which is so important for Black folks, right?
Yes.
Which is our tool to freedom, which is our tool to liberation, one of our tools, right? And you know, like you were talking about the albums that you're drawn to and telling a story. One of the reasons why I love Kendrick is, I guess that's going to be my mantra this whole podcast. One of the reasons why I love Kendrick, there's a gazillion reasons, right? But he is a conceptual artist. So it's not just about the single. We're living in a day and age where it's all about the single. How many Spotify streams can you get on that pop and single, right? How many singles can you comprise into a little EP, right? Like, don't even give us the full LP. No one's got time to listen to that whole thing, right? It's all about the single. But for Kendrick, he's thinking about the story, the narrative, the meaning, the moral, and that doesn't just develop on one song, but it develops from song to song to song, right? And by the time you get to the end of the album, you realize what he was trying to tell you in the beginning, so you got to play it again. You're you know, well, and it's just this continual process, this cyclical process of coming to consciousness, right? He makes us perform that.
And there's only, I when I think of artists who can do that, it's the best. It's the best of the best. It's the the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. God, now that I'm trying to think of it, I forget every album I've ever listened to in my life.
I would say the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. If we're thinking about the hip hop genre, I would say Nas's Illmatic is kind of emblematic of that, right? This development from song to song.
Rhythm Nation. Just
the Velvet Rope, honey. That's my album.
Oh my God. And you're right. And you're right to say it. But it needs to be said. But even like Solange, Seat at the Table and When I Get Home, both of those I think of as like just narratives, beautiful narratives that you listen to front to back and you go back again. And like, I'm saying this to say that Kendrick is at the top of it. You think of like the best of the best. He's on that list every time. And like, I just, we can go on, but I want to talk about the singles on it. Not the singles as in like, as we were just saying, it's a narrative, but there are, and it is a narrative, but like every narrative story, there are chapters that you just like, that just get you and you're just there for a second, like, wow. The first one I want to talk about with you, and if there's any you want to talk about too, please interrupt me and be like, no, we're talking about this one right now, Lance, we're doing it. And I'll be like, you're right. No, the first one I'm talking about is King Kunta, because King Kunta I remember listening to for the first time. And even I think that there are going to be two significant moments with me listening to it for the first time and listening to it again when I was like getting ready for this and being like sitting with it like, wow, I didn't even realize the depths of this when I was first listening to it, because it's so true to me right now in my life. Again, where I was younger and I think I was looking forward. I was learning this. I was like, oh, this is going to mean something to me one day. I don't know if I'm ready yet, but I know that this is something that's going to be big for me. And so now when I'm listening to it now, I'm like, I still don't know if I'm fully ready for it in the way, but I think I'm close. I'm closer to like where I'm going to be with this. And I kind of love that too, because I'm just like, oh, this is important. This is something that's going to be with me for the rest of my life. And
I love that description, Lance, because King Kunta is like the heart of rapping when it comes to the boast. When it comes to boasting, when it comes to that kind of, that swag, that statement of unshakable power, that's what King Kunta is, right? Yeah. Like, I got the button, I am controlling this thing, I'm in my bag, can't no one knock me. Oof. And so there's that kind of like transcendent feeling of the song. But there's also that deep G-funk.
Yes.
So another exclusive. One of my pet projects is a study of G-funk, and we don't talk about G-funk enough. But it's this West Coast interpolation of the funk tradition, particularly of P-funk, right? And G-funk in itself, I kind of like to describe it. So imagine it's LA. It's 85 degrees. It's summertime. It's breezy. It's beautiful. It's balmy, right? Like just enough breeze. You're looking at the ocean. The ocean is sparkling. It's gorgeous. All the things. But you're taking in that scene from the back of a police cruiser handcuffed. That's what G-funk is. It's danceable, it's groovy, it's beautiful, it makes you feel good in your body, but it's also nasty, it's funky, it is violent, it is grimy, it's hard-hitting. So there's that fundamental tension at the very bottom, like the very root of King Kunta that is just infectious. You can't help but dance, but it's also got this undercurrent of nasty is the word. My lip curls up as I say it, right? Like the groove is just so good on that song. And it for me, you know, as an LA girl, it captures the West Coast, it captures G-funk, it's pulling from certain traditions. I write about that in the book. And yeah, that song is it's at the top for me on that album. And it's one of the songs that, you know, that song paired with Wesley's Theory. So Wesley's Theory is the first track. Then you get a little interlude, and then you get King Kunta. Both Wesley's Theory and King Kunta, those are funk-based songs. So for me, even though we talk about the jazz, and I talk about that, the cosmopolitan jazz, all these different sounds on the album, it's rooted in funk. It's rooted in G-funk, right? It capitalizes off like the live instrumentation of G-funk grooves and you know, funk it's about the body, it's about movement and sweat. And the other thing about funk, it's also about liberation. Funk at its core is about getting outside of your constrictions, about moving to new planes of consciousness. So it's not, you know, Kendrick is of the West Coast, is of a G-funk tradition. And like within the very like structure, the container of funk is this desire for liberation. So you're feeling all that in King Kunta, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so there's some magic to it. There's the way that he knows that you're gonna feel something in this, and he's manipulating sounds wrong, but like really capitalizing on that. He's harnessing his, you feel the power. When you were talking about the first two going into it too, you're just like, he knows what he's doing. He's harnessing his power. Where King Kunta is the release. He's like, oh, this is the album. There's a reason he starts with King Kunta, but goes in on King Kunta. He's like, this is the first powerful song you're going to hear on this album because I want you to know what you're getting into. He does not lie to you and tell you, oh, I'm going to kind of trick you into thinking. No, he says, this is what we're going to go into this album. And that's why he chose King Kunta.
Yeah, this ain't going to be no soft album.
No. You're going to feel, you're going to sit with it for a second. You're going to rewind and be like, wait, what did I just hear?
Yes.
The second one I want to go into is, I feel like the anthem of the album, the one that everyone goes into.
Right?
You know it. It's, I mean, you were saying when the album came out, and I was like, oh yeah, I had that similar experience where you go to the club and everyone's there, and it just felt electric. You felt like, I mean, you were like, oh, this is a moment where I'm hearing this in the club, and everyone's feeling it, and everyone's feeling different emotions about it. We're happy, we're hopeful, we're sad, we're like, I mean, I think when I first heard it, I was like, connected. I was like, this is a community song. This is a song about like him making us all say that, him being like, we're gonna be all right. And now as I listen to it, I'm like, I feel him being like, no, you need to hear this. You need to hear these words. Even he needs to hear these words. He needs to hear himself say, we're going to be all right. Please take it away, because I just get emotional listening.
No, I feel like you said everything that I feel about that song. And let's not get it twisted. We were hearing it in the club, we were hearing it on the radio, but we were also hearing it in the streets. Protest anthem, people screaming it, right? Disruptions, demonstrations, like the way that song gives life. And one of the little tidbits, there's a bunch of hidden gems, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the hidden gems when I talk about All Right in the book is the backstory with Pharrell and how he had that track for a really long time, right? And had shopped it around. In fact, if you Google online, and you look for the track, you can see other people who have recorded over it before Kendrick got to it. Like Fabulous, he has a version of it, which is it's whatever. Yeah. But then he talks about Kendrick getting on the track, finding the pocket, and just elevating the song to a kind of otherworldly level. And like part of what carries the song, I mean, the lyricism. Let me just read the bridge that we all know, but like, let me read it so it can like, let's sit with it. Wouldn't you know, we've been hurt, been down before. Nigga, when our pride was low, looking at the world like, where do we go? Nigga, and we hate po-po. Wanna kill us dead in the streets, faux show. Nigga, I'm at the preacher's door. My knees getting weak, my gun might blow, but we gonna be all right. And like for me, I said we would let it sit, huh? Right. Okay, so let me pause. But for me, right, I'm so excited because like the Kendrick for me is validating all of our experiences, right? Like there is freedom ain't just gonna come from praying in a church. It's not going to come just that way. It's not just going to come from demonstrations. It's not just going to come from, it's all of this together. There's space for all of this. Blackness, the Black condition. If we are going to imagine a future that is sustainable, that is more livable for us in this country, that is has been trying to stamp us out. We can do it. We have the fortitude, we have the tools to do it. However, we must pay attention to the various avenues to build this power. You know what I mean?
No, I think you hear that him trying to be like, pay attention, listen to what I'm saying. And I mean, I think especially right now, I need that. I need, like, now that All Right's back in my life, it's back in my life. It is back in my life. Because, like, I listen to it and I'm just like, I need him. He's yelling. I feel like he's behind me yelling at me saying, these things are happening. Yes, I can't stop them, but you need to, the only way that we can preserve ourselves as Black people, as people who are suffered, is that to say we need to keep shouting, we're going to be all right. We need to go tell them, we need to go tell the oppressors, we're going to be, you can do these things to us. You can shoot us in the streets, and please stop shooting us in the streets, but you can break our legs, you can break us down mentally and physically and emotionally, but we're going to be all right. You can't win that.
You can't destroy us, you can't eradicate us, you can't annihilate us, right?
You can't. We're going to be, at the end of the day, we're going to still be there saying we're going to be all right. And I just like,
and it so often feels like annihilation from so many ways, right? Like I talk about how this album is thinking about the kind of political landscape, this movement from Obama to Trump. It's thinking about prisons as an organizing system in our society, right? It's thinking about these police forces who have too much money and too much power. For me, even though Kendrick doesn't use the language, this is an abolitionist album.
Yes.
My God, articulating both an abolitionist and a decolonial philosophy that the folks who love this album haven't really talked about in the ways that it should be talked about, right? I want us to have those conversations about the album, but the way that he opens up possibility, right? The way that he spurs us on, and like, let's not get it twisted. The thing that makes All Right beautiful, it's the lyricism, but it's also Pharrell's production. We don't talk about Pharrell's production enough.
No,
but
I get Pharrell.
Phenomenal.
I'm sorry, Pharrell. I'm sorry, because it like, both of them should like together stand up, holding hands, being like, we did this. Like they made a song. But
then we also have the horn with Kamasi Washington that spirals through, right?
Yes. And that's one thing about the song that I'm like, it's jazz. I feel like in so many time periods in that song, I'm like, it's not just today, it's yesterday, it's century ago, it's decades ago, it's on the fields, like the fields with our ancestors, like it's spiritual, it's in the church, it's in I feel disconnected from the here, and I'm with everything in that song.
Okay, I love that you're saying this because I provide a beautiful close reading of the video.
Mhm.
Do you remember
Yeah.
that video?
Oh, how could I forget that video?
Oh my God. I mean, the weightlessness, the nimbleness, right? Like
Yes.
Kendrick soaring,
Mhm.
his kind of otherworldly
Yes.
nature within that video. Like
Mhm.
that video for me, I mean, even the black and white nature of it, right? With like
Yeah.
the silver tinting,
Mhm.
that takes it out of time, right?
Yeah.
And like opens up the possibility of new context. When is
Yeah.
this? Was it then? Was it now? Is it the future? It's all of that,
It's all
right?
of it.
Just as you were
Yeah.
saying. Yeah.
It's bigger than every time I think about it, I'm like, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than when I'm thinking about it. I can't fully grasp onto it in a way that I love. And I think it's maybe that's it. When I was saying that, it's when I was saying about King Kunta, even this now, like I can't it'll never be something that I can fully grasp onto. And I think that's beautiful because it's gonna keep coming back into my life, and I'm gonna keep trying to grasp onto it. And that's the point, That's the point of it, is that we're gonna keep persevering to try and, hold on to that.
And what I love about it is that the meaning, the understanding is not just accrued from the lyrical landscape, which is gorgeous, right? The lyrics
Yeah.
are gorgeous, but it's also the sound that keeps giving us, that keeps developing and growing, right? It's also the kind of like all the just sonic contours of the album offer
Yes.
so much. And I will just say that Kendrick said that he's on record saying that All Right is one of his greatest records because of the way that it reached people and made them feel like they had power to enact change in our society.
And it did.
And I
that.
talk about it as an anthem. As an anthem. And if we really think about it, there are very few hip hop political anthems that have crossed over, right, in between the popular and the protest spheres,
Yes.
right? We might think of like NWA, of the Police. We might think of Public Enemy, Fight the Power. Yeah. And since then, Kendrick's All Right. That's monumental.
Monumental.
Right?
And
yeah.
I think of another one, and it's Kendrick too, Freedom. Like Freedom, I remember past the 2020 protests, people were blaring that too, because they were like, to bring it up again, they're like, this feels I don't think it's as big as All Right. It got to the same heights, but you felt that in there. You felt that the same spirit was in Freedom, that was heightened to its highest extent in All Right. I could talk about All Right all day. I could talk about it. Know that I could cry right now thinking about that song, because not even just because how beautiful it is, just because I feel him. I feel him, like his spirit with me when I hear it, and he's like pushing me forward in it.
Okay, as you say that, let's transition and talk about Mortal Man, because you're talking about how All Right brings you to that place of tears. When I first heard Mortal Man and the end of that song where Tupac's voice comes in, I broke down bawling in tears. I was haunted. My whole body broke out in goosebumps. And when you talk about being silhouetted or being like there's a specter, a ghost of Kendrick that stays with you when you hear that song, Tupac has always been a specter for me, and he's always been a specter for Kendrick. He's so important to of course, we already know popular culture, hip hop, but to the West Coast, to little babies in LA, right? So Tupac, part of Kendrick's origin story, he gave an interview to GQ magazine where he talks about, I was in the studio one night years and years ago, and I look over and Tupac's right there, and he's talking to me, and he tells me I have a duty and a responsibility. And from there, my life changed. And he's talking about being visited upon by the ghost of Tupac, right? Yeah. And he animates that on the album in a way that is so powerful to me. That song, I can't revisit that song often because it moves me so,
Right. And I mean, for when I listen to that song, I just like, I want to hug Kendrick a little bit. I want to make sure he's doing good, because I feel he to bring in the Black Panther of it all too. He's in some sort of ancestral plane where he's seeing people who raised him, who watched over him, who like made sure he would get to where he is. And I see him just like looking at these people with like a reverence that I don't think he realized yet, that people are going to look at him. People will see.
Oh, I think he fully realized it.
You think he fully realized it?
I think he fully realized it, baby, and is stepping into that power, but is asking, like, what are the consequences of this?
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
If I am going to accept this role as leader, as, divine being, as conduit, as vessel for word, if I'm going to step into this, am I ready for it? Am I ready for the consequences? Will I be surprised when an audience turns their back on me? Will I be made into a martyr like so many who have come before me? Yeah. I think he fully realized at least the potential. Like we can go all the way back to Section 80 and high power, and he's talking about being a leader. And this is before he's even popped. He's already thinking about that question. What does it look like to move with that kind of divinity?
And like it's not it's not the glamour of it. It's the burden of it. It's the burden of like, oh, I'm not myself. I'm bigger than myself. And I think there's a little sadness in it too, of like, oh, I don't get to just, there's something in me, something in my past and what I've seen and what I've been through. I had to lose myself to survive and make it better for everyone else. I'm gonna do this. I'm so sorry to everyone listening. He's a Jesus Christ kind of sacrificial person, like dying.
But you don't have to apologize that, because he puts that very metaphor on the album.
He does,
right?
He does, and I like I'm apologizing for my own relationship with it, with Christianity, and like, it's just, if it's my own thing, but like I see it in him, this like he had to kill himself in a way. He had to kill the Kendrick Lamar who he was to become the figure Kendrick Lamar, to say, I have to like put myself in the spotlight. I have to, all right, it's an anthem for a movement. And in that is not just like I feel like people forget that it's not glamorous. It's he's being watched by everyone all the time. People that like, if they were watching me, I would be terrified every day of my life, and he has to deal with that. He's There's
a tremendous sense of sadness that undercuts all of Kendrick's work that is palpable. He is licking old wounds that haven't closed.
Yeah.
He is shedding a tear for all the loved ones that he's lost. He is shedding a tear for his little boy self, who never got to experience an adolescence in safety, right? There's so much loss within his work. And for me, I think that's what makes it so relatable, so urgent, so timely. I mean, come on, we are still living in a pandemic when we have lost how many lives?
How many lives?
Like, how many artists can we talk to in the popular sphere who are giving us music that actually help us to move through these moments? Kendrick is giving us that kind of work, right?
Giving it to us selflessly, selflessly.
So generously, right?
So generously. And so, are we worthy of it? Are we worthy of this? Are we learning from it? That's what I like. I hope we are, because I hope people are seeing the sacrifice he's giving to us with this music.
I mean, as you're talking, this is just a little story, but I remember teaching back in the day, And we were talking about the song Swimming Pools, which I believe was one of the first singles from Good Kid, Mad City. And like my students, they were like, oh yeah, we love this album. We love Kendrick. This is our drinking song. I guess they felt real comfortable with me to tell me this is our drinking song. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, pull up, drink, take a shot, drink, pull up. And I'm just like, what? This is your drinking song? Do you know, if you listen to the verses, he's talking about alcoholism within his family, how he's scared that this runs in his genes, how alcoholism destroys families and neighborhoods. Like, what? This ain't a drinking anthem. But the kids, they were like, what? He says all that? Like, we just like the beat. We just like the beat. So I want to be hopeful. Like I say at the end of this book, let me see. I want to get my own wording right. What do I say? Can I read this? Or do you mind? It's very short.
Yes, of course.
So as I finish this book, having lived and protested through the Obama-Trump years, and as I prepare for decades of aftermath before me, I'm grateful that To Pimp a Butterfly persists as an acclaimed artifact of genius. As an LA girl and a longtime lyricist lover, I'm pleased to boast Kendrick as one of the best living rappers and one of the most special to have ever entered the industry. He is a genius, and I'm proud to celebrate that talent while living in a nation that makes martyrs of courageous, kin-loving Black men. The comparison of Kendrick to rappers, to top 5 rappers like Nas, Rakim, and Jay-Z is more than appropriate, and it is not too early to deem To Pimp a Butterfly a masterwork and defining artifact of the unfolding 21st century. My hope is that Kendrick Lamar has inspired a generation of rap listeners like myself to read more, to travel farther, to self-examine, and to strive toward individual and collective greatness in all endeavors. All that to say, I have the same hopes. I hope people are listening. He's begging us to listen and re-listen and listen closely. And I mean, that's all I could hope for, you know?
And
I'm deeply skeptical
beautiful.
Of that. It's beautiful. I'm skeptical of humans and people just because of my kind of like, you know, Afro pessimist, Black feminist.
I was going to say, right? we're Black people, like it makes sense. It's Sequoia, this has been such a good interview. I'm so sad I have to say it's over. My editor is going to be like, over an hour, Lance, and I'm sorry, Nick. Nick, I'm sorry, but I had to. It's so good. It's this book and the work you've done with it is so beautiful. I love Black people. I just need to say it. I love Black people because what we do with art and how we interpret art and how we like evolve with art is just so gorgeous. And so there's gonna be millions of years now when aliens pick apart, you know, the remains of this planet. I feel like they're gonna look at Black art specifically and be like, what? Like, it's gonna be revolutionary to another civilization one day. And the last thing I want to
wait, Lance, I'm gonna cut you off and close out because as you're talking, I'm like, that's what Tupac said so many years ago. There's an interview in 1994 where he says, I can't change the world, but I do know that I can plant the seed in the mind of the kid that will change the world, right? And I feel like that's what Tupac was invested in. That's what Kendrick was invested in. That's what Black people that we love are invested in. We might not be able to have that immediate change today, but we're going to do that work to make sure that the change might come in the future, can come in the future. So that's so beautiful. Thank you. It's how, thank you for,
I have so many things for you, but I'll do it in a second. Because the last thing I want to see if you would, I want to give you space here to, you know, maybe forget about me, forget about the listeners for a second, except one, like what, if you could talk to Kendrick, like into the microphone right now, talk to Kendrick and say anything you'd want to say to him right now, because who knows, maybe he listens, maybe he's listening, maybe he and even not, maybe you're putting it out there for him to like eventually find, but like what do you want to say to him as a person who's, you know, spent so much time with his work in a way that I feel like not many have this emotional connection to his work this way?
Lance, I was not expecting this question. I want to say, Kendrick, what up? What up, homie? What up, brother? We grew up right around the corner from each other. I'm so grateful that you exist. I'm so grateful for what you put into the world. We need to talk about writing your memoirs. So when you need a ghostwriter to do that, I need you to hit me up. You can find me online. Just Google my name, Sequoia Maner. I'll pop up, send me a little email, have your team, tell your friends to get with my friends and then we could be friends, right? As Biggie said. But, for real, you need that ghostwriter come through. I would love to write that story with you. I would love to commemorate Los Angeles, what Black Los Angeles was and what it is, the future of what it can be. And I'm just so grateful for you, for your imagination, for your mastery, for your artistry. It's unparalleled.
No, and I'm Kendrick. You heard her. Get that. Get that. I know the memoirs around the corner too. I know he's thinking about it too. He's sitting at home, just like, twisting those locks. Does he have locks right now?
I think he's got that beautiful afro that we saw in the video, right?
He's just twirling his hair, getting those curls out.
But the thing is, he's been giving us little glimpses of his memoir in these songs. And I'm like, yes. Don't give it all away, Kendrick. Come with me and let's write this book together, okay?
You heard him. You heard it, Kendrick, here first. Listen, it's there. It's there. It just needs to be in the book. And I think you found your person, Kendrick. Sequoia, this has been so much fun. We are officially friends now.
Yes, we are.
This is a beautiful friendship about to start. This has been so great to listen to talk to. I'm gonna go, blast all right now and just like cry in my corner, just like crying, being like, I am. Keep telling me, Kendrick, I need to hear it. No, it's until listeners, go listen to it. Go listen to Pimp a Butterfly and Good Kid, Mad City. Like, go listen to both of them back to back and listen to the story he has for us, because he's, no matter who you are, too, white, black, I'll say it again, black, white, brown, just whoever you are, you have there's something in this for you, but listen to it knowing it is for Black people. It is him talking to his black people, and like, what does that mean for you in this world? So Sequoia, thank you for bringing this to me and the listeners and to the podcast. Do you have anything you would like to say to the independent bookstore community, as in like booksellers and
the independent bookstore community? Thank you so much for giving me life. When I think about independent bookstores, first of all, these large corporations, please, listeners, these large corporations, they need to be defunded. Please do not give them your money. Please order straight from independent bookstores. Please do not buy 33 1/3 books on Amazon. Order them from SKYLIT books. Order them from your local favorite bookstore. I love Isawan in LA. I love Bookwoman in Austin. I love Karis Books in Atlanta. There are so many independent, Black-owned, feminist-run, revolutionary-minded bookstores, and they are vital. They're a lifeblood. It's how information is disseminated. And we are living in an age of censorship and propaganda and, anti-critical race theory. So now more than ever, independent bookstores are urgent. So please support them.
I'm about to use that as a clip and just play that places, just like have that running in the store at all times, be like, because that was gorgeous. What an answer. Can I go on for another hour? No, I can't do it. I can't do it. But no, I would.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Thank you, Sequoia, for coming on. I just made my day. Listeners, you can go to sprint to your bookstore and get Sequoia's book, 33 1/3, Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly, and just, immerse yourself in this wonderful text that feels not just like an academic telling you, but like it's a poetry too in the way that you talk about it. And so have a blast reading that. Sequoia, thank you again. And to all my listeners out there, you have a glorious and beautiful rest of your day. We're going to be all right. And I want you to hear that. I want you to hear me say that too, because I have to hear myself say that too. All right. All of you have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Skylight Books podcast series. Please don't forget to visit our website at skylightbooks.com and make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more author talks and bookseller conversations. You can find us on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Stay safe and healthy, and we hope to see you back in our store soon.